Hello everyone, I'm Joanne and welcome to Pastels with Joanne. Today we're going to be working on, we're just starting the good copy of this painting. And so what we did last week was we did a drawing of it, kind of sketched it out for placement. This is it here, that's what we worked on last week. And in order to get this drawing onto the suede, which is the surface that we work on, this is the suede mat board, you have to go through it, you have to transfer that drawing onto it. So what I do for that is I simply just take it and I take the drawing and tape it up backwards to a window so I can see through the drawing. And then I just take a pastel pencil. I usually use one that's kind of dark and one that comes off a little bit softer so that the transfer is easy. And so I tape it up to the window so I can see through the drawing and take my pencil pastel and literally just trace every line that I see from the drawing. And with that soft pastel sitting on the back of the drawing, all I have to do to get this, you can see that now the image of this drawing is transferred onto the suede already. And all I did to make that happen was take this, I had it laying flat on a table, and I taped it directly to the suede board like this. So I taped it down so it wouldn't move and that it was sitting really firmly flat. And then all you do is you just give it a really good press with your hands, really slowly all the way across. And in the areas where it's really important to get the detail, like in here, for example, I really made sure that I just put a lot of pressure with my finger along those lines. And once you do that, you just untape it and you peel it away, and you're left with your drawing is now with chalk pastel on your suede. So you're ready to start the good copy. So that's what we're going to work on today. What I'm planning on doing with this painting is I am going to be creating this image of the girl in the gown with the trees and the grass. However, I'm going to start today by doing kind of a misty sort of abstract type background with just playing with some of the greens, because there's lots of greens, beautiful greens in the trees and the leaves, but there's also the beautiful mint green in the gown. So I'm going to coordinate those colors and put them all together in a kind of an outside kind of swirly type pattern, just for effect. So I'm going to just start by putting some layers of chalk directly onto the suede. And this is going to take a couple layers to blend and put it all together. But for now, I'm just going to kind of get some really quick layers going in there just to see kind of how it looks for color. I know I want this minty green to be in here kind of throughout, even if I cover it up with some layers of other greens and other colors, because that is the color that is a really good match to her gown. I'm going to use that color for her gown as well. So definitely putting that, I'm going to put that in everywhere to kind of create some unity with the piece. So I'm just going to start by filling one layer in here. Just going to give it a little bit of a blend with my finger to kind of work it all into the suede so that it's kind of pushed into the fiber of the suede. And this still looks kind of, you know, messy. I want it to be really kind of soft and swirly is my idea. So I'm going to add one more layer of that mint. The more layers you get of these chunk chalk pastels, so the chunks kind of look like chalk you would use on a chalkboard, and they are softer than the pencil pastels. And so they really pick up color really beautifully, lots of pigment in them. And if you get enough layers going, they blend really nicely together. It creates a really beautiful soft effect. And so that's why we use kind of a combination of pencil pastels and chunk pastels. They're both chalk pastels, but the pencils will give you more detail. The chunks will give you more intense color and pigment. So we get that beautiful mint layered in there now. And I'm going to take a darker version, kind of that same mint color. It's the same color that you see in the creases of the shadows of her gown. And so I'm just going to put a couple layers of that in just to kind of see how it will look blended in with that. And so what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to go back to that same color we put in at the beginning, and I'm going to blend that right in. And I'm going to combine those two colors together, and then I'm going to add even more. So really going to get kind of rich with the color in there. Just going to blend that in. So the great thing about chalk pastel, I've mentioned in previous shows, is that you get to mix colors just like you would mix paint to create a new color, but because it's a dry medium, you can actually do the color mixing right on the suede rather than having to mix the color first. So it's kind of cool that way. So get that blended in. I'm going to add a little bit more of this other color now. So now we've got some really nice layers happening in here. And once you get those layers going, that's where you really start to see that soft kind of swirliness that you can create with chalk pastel. And so I'm going to kind of work on this little section of this background just to create some kind of really cool swirly kind of abstract type shapes. And then we're going to move kind of into the main part of the painting where we're going to go with making it look really realistic. So going to kind of blend that together. I'm going to introduce another color now. So I want to have some of the greens. doing the mints from her dress, but I'm also going to combine in the greens from the trees and the grasses. And so those greens are a lot warmer. The mint is a kind of a cool color. So I've got a couple of shades for that as well. And I'm going to put that in the same area. It's just going to be a continuous change of colors of different shades of the green. And we may put a little bit of the yellows and the lighter shades in there as well, but we want to see how it looks first, just getting those initial colors in. So because I put 3 or 4 layers up in here, you can see it's really soft and blending nicely. This one only has 2 layers right now, so you can see when I try to blend, it blends a little bit, but it doesn't kind of create that soft, swirly combination of colors that you can when you have enough pastel on your suede. So I'm just going back into this lighter shade of green now, the one that coordinates with this warm green. And I'm going to put a layer of that in. I want to create or kind of keep that initial mint color as my base everywhere, even though in a lot of the areas it may get completely covered like I'm working in right now, but having that base really kind of creates unity, because it does show through just a little bit in a few spots, so it kind of creates it helps to unify the piece. So I'm going to start playing around with some shapes now, kind of just sort of blocking things in at first, just to get the layers in there. I'll do one more layer of the darker green. And most of these chunks, or these chunks that I'm using right now, are Rembrandt, really great professional quality pastel. Really perfect mix of hardness and softness to create many different looks. So you can use it to create this really beautiful soft effect that we're working on right now, but you can also use these chunks and get in and get really specific with lines like that. So let's start creating some neat little shapes in here. So I'm going to come above with this warm green, using the warm green again. And I'm just going to go and create some roundness in here. And then sort of swirl upwards. Now this may change as we go along because there's not really a specific plan with this, just kind of going with what I think I'd like to see, but we may take a step back later and make some changes for sure. All right, so we're just gonna kind of swirl that in there. And now we'll move into some of the mints again. Now that I have the warm green in there, you can really see the coolness to this mint color. It's very blue. Just gonna wrap that right around this warm one. I don't want the edges to be too defined. In a lot of the spots, I kind of want it to be softer. So I'm going to kind of blend some, once I get enough layers in here, I'm going to blend some of those edges together. So I don't know if you can see here, but I'm intentionally overlapping my darker blue or green edge in here into the lighter mint. And then I'm coming back in with that mint color, that lighter one, and overlapping this way as well. And that's where you get that really soft change from one color to the next to remove that harsh line that I had there initially. I just want this part to be a really soft change from one color to the next. So you can see, really see where the softness comes in there. And I always use my fingers to blend in any area that I can. So if the area is big enough to blend with my finger, I'll always opt for my finger first. More control that way. Get into smaller areas, you have to blend with other methods. Okay. So I'm going to do the same thing in here. I'm going to create a little bit, I'm going to go a little bit crisp with this edge right now, this one. So we're going to kind of do a combination of soft edges and crisp edges. And just kind of excess dust coming from the chalk. Just give it a little blow and it goes away. I'm just going to take a step back and take a look. Okay, that's cool. So I'm going to kind of keep going with this, but I want to add in some more colors now. So I'm going to add in some more lights and darks. I'm going to set down these for a minute. And I'm going to take a light yellow, light green, and I'm also going to put in some darks. So I'm going to go with a really, really rich dark green. So you'll see a big change in here when I put this one in. So this one is very dark. Oh, this one isn't picking up very well. There we go. It's starting to come now. I'm going to go in with this other one. I have one that's similar. Oh no, that's not it. This is it here. There we go. Just going to add a little bit of dark. And take my green that I was just using and use that to kind of blend it in. So I overlapped here, but I don't want that to be there. So I'm going to come back in with this color that was underneath and use that to kind of erase it. So that works really well to do that. Just kind of cover it back up again. And that makes it disappear. I'm going to add some highlights in now. So we have some really beautiful yellows and mint or light greens in the photo as well, so we want to put some of those in there. And I've got kind of more of a greeny yellow here. And I'm going to do just a little bit of overlap with the mint again, just to soften that edge a little bit, blend the two colors together. Okay, so I'm going to come out with some more dark greens in here. I kind of change my swirl direction. And if you're not sure how to create a pattern that, if you're wanting to do something kind of more abstract like this, and you're not sure how to make the patterns look the way you want them to look, you can always go and find images of swirly shapes and use that as a reference. Just gonna add some of the blue. Okay. Pull some of this lighter mint in here, and I'll just kind of blend. So in this area here, I really kind of want to kind of combine these colors, create softness. So what I'm doing when I'm blending this is I'm intentionally overlapping everything right now. So this large swirling circular motion that I'm making with my finger is so that the warm green is actually intermingling with the cool greens. And I'm going to do that in some areas and not in others. But I'm making sure that when I get up into this area that I stop before I get to this edge, because I want to keep that edge nice and sharp. So I'm just going to redefine that edge a little bit. Okay. I'm going to put a little bit more of that dark along the bottom. And so what I'm going to do now is I don't want this to look like just a line. So I'm going to kind of, as I'm working along the edge of that line, I'm going to start to blend the chalk upwards into the area, into the color above it. Now, when I do that, I'm starting out with, when I'm right at the edge, with a fair bit of pressure to make that chalk really come on there. And then as I move upwards, I just get softer and softer with the amount of pressure I'm putting, so that we get just a little bit less and less chalk in there, so that we can create the soft change. So crisp edge here, but I want it to be soft up into here. Okay, and I'm going to I just take a step back and take a look at the shape, and I feel like I need to make this a little rounder. So I'm just going to adjust the shape a little bit. So pastel's really forgiving that way. You can make lots of adjustments as you go. The suede takes lots and lots of layers, so you really can cover a lot of stuff up by adding more layers in. So it's easy to fix mistakes. Just going to pull some more of that dark up into here. And just blending it out. Okay, I'm going to adjust my edge on this one as well. I just feel like when I look at it from further, taking a step back and looking at shapes from further away really can help. Even the entire painting, when you're working on it, just take a step back and look at it from a distance, and that really helps you decide where you might need to make changes. So I just pulled this a little rounder right in here, and I'm going to come a little bit rounder right in here as well. Now you can see, because this is a light suede, I chose this color intentionally so that I have a really a light shade that's similar in skin tone, so that when I do the face, it picks up really well for color. Color matching on the skin tone is a lot easier when you have a base that's similar. So, but because the suede is so light, what you're seeing happening here below is I've got chalk on my fingers, and as I'm working in here, the chalk is kind of, I'm brushing up against here, not intentionally, and it's transferring down there. And that's okay, because as I was just saying, because the suede takes so many layers, it's not really going to affect, I'll be able to cover that up really easily. So I'm just blending some of this blue into this little shape. And then I think I'm just going to come in and add some highlight in there now. So I'm going to choose my really light yellow. So I want to put some of that. I'm going to get nice and round in here, and then swirling like this. And this will continuously change as we move around filling in the sections, but I want to get an area where the yellow is really kind of showing nicely. I'm going to add some more of the mint underneath so I can blend it out. So when you're blending and you're wanting to create something really soft, like we're doing in here, and you put it in and start blending, wanting to have a soft change of color. If you're struggling with blending and you're rubbing it like this and it's not combining together, that just means you don't have enough layers of chalk on the suede. So just go in and add another layer when that happens, and that will really help the blending to go smoothly when you're not struggling with it. Just gonna add some more of this color, create a little bit of overlap in here. And I may change my design a little bit as I go. It's kind of a work in progress. I'm going to soften this area right here. So I'm going to take the light mint and just go right, I'm going right, intentionally right over top where the yellow meets up with the blue, to soften that edge. Yeah. So I'm going to put a little bit of my dark in there, just on this outer edge. And I think I'm going to connect it to this shape and see how that looks. I'm just going to extend it up. And I like that. But when I take a step back, kind of came too low in here, so I'm going to come in with a little bit of a highlight color. Bring that back. Okay. I'm going to leave that for now and move downwards a little bit. So when you're doing something abstract like this, one of the things you want to try to remember is a few things just about about composition in general, is that you don't want everything really evenly spaced and totally and completely perfect in terms of size and placement and all of that. If things are too perfect and completely symmetrical and evenly spaced and all the same size or the same shape, then it becomes boring, and it doesn't have, there's no interest in the composition. So I'm going to kind of keep that in mind. And so when I'm doing that, I am going with a swirly type pattern, but I want to make sure that each one is different than the next. So and now that I've done that, I can see that I've kind of come out almost the same distance as this one here. So I'm going to bring it back in, and the way I'm going to do that, I don't want to come out quite so far, so I'm just going to create a new edge for it right there. So it's coming in a little bit from where it was before. And we'll put in some more warm green. And just blend that in. I'm going to come down and add a few more shapes just to see where I want to go with it. And just by blocking in the shapes and putting in that spacing, it'll help me to see if there's anything else I want to add once I put it in. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a step back and take a look. I'm just going to create a general outline with some of this mint. So I think I would like another swirl going down. I'm going to pull that one in further into the painting. And I'm going to have one that's kind of coming off the edge down in here. And I think I want to come in a little bit closer this way. So I don't want this edge that I just put in there. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of really lightly with my white, I'm just going to mark that off. This won't stay white. It's just so that I know I don't want to come any further with this shape this way, so that it's not going to be even with this one. And I want to thank you for joining us today. I'll see you next time. I'm Joanne with Pastels with Joanne, and you can find us at joannemarchildon.com and join us for one of our paint and party nights. See you next time.